Now, macaroni cheese has been around for years. I'm a 70s child, and this was the staple back then. But if it tasted like this, sorry, Mother, I'd be the size of a house. Some people think I am. It's an optical illusion. Just your TVs are getting bigger. I'm always singing the praises of modern, straightforward recipes. But nothing could be easier than some of the festive foods championed by the Victorians. Food historian Ivan Day is going to recreate a memorable meal from the period. It featured in one of the most famous Christmas stories ever written, A Christmas Carol.
Charles Dickens sets a scene which has inspired Christmas dinners across the land. The Cratchit family's roast goose with roast potatoes and apple sauce.
The fire needs to be red hot to roast the goose, so Ivan's going to start by making the trimmings.
This stuffing recipe is from a really important book called A Shilling Cookery Book for the People. The author was a famous chef called Alexis Soyer, and he aimed the recipes at people who were living off a very low income. In A Christmas Carol, Bob Cratchit earns 15 shillings a week, the equivalent of £72 in modern money.
Well, he did have Scrooge as a boss. So Cratchit had to make his meal with very affordable ingredients. For the stuffing, fresh sage is added to the breadcrumbs. And then something a bit more surprising, beetroot.
I'm not going to chop them too small because I think they'll be really nice in big chunks.
Softened onions and a little sugar go in next. And it's all bound together with an egg yolk and some seasoning.
Now, I'm not sure how the Cratchits like their pepper, but I know what I like. I like mine nice and coarse.
Then it's stirred together, the bird's stuffed and hung by the fire. Poorer Victorian families didn't have ovens, so they'd often ask the local baker to cook their meat for them. But an ingenious device changed all that.
This gadget is called a bottle jack, and it enabled fairly poor people to enjoy a roast goose every Christmas in front of their quite small domestic fireplaces. This is a type of English cookery that has entirely disappeared, roast meat. In order for meat to be roasted, it has to be rotated in front of a fire, and certainly not in an oven, that's baked meat. This goose will cook in about an hour and a half.
And during that time, Ivan can cook the perfect companion, potatoes roasted in the dripping from the bird.
Goose is such a fat bird that I don't need to add any more fat to these potatoes to get them to roast.
A goose provided a hearty Christmas meal for the hard-working Victorians, and much more besides. Every last bit of the bird was put to good use by the families who had space to keep them.
Cottagers often ran a lag of geese to provide meat for the table, grease for medicine, and feathers for arrows or pens. Charles Dickens probably penned A Christmas Carol with a goose quill, which would have also been an essential piece of office equipment for his poor, overworked clerk, Bob Cratchit.
While Ivan's roast lunch is finishing off, here's a reminder of the Cratchit family's excited reaction to their Christmas feast.
Bob said he didn't believe there ever was such a goose cooked. Its tenderness and flavour, size and cheapness were the themes of universal admiration. And the youngest Cratchits in particular were steeped in sage and onion to the eyebrows.
Sounds like my kind of roast. But how's Ivan's turned out?
My goose is cooked to a kind of mahogany perfection. So I'm going to slice a little bit of breast meat off. Let's just cut that off there. What I really like about this particular variation on the Cratchit Christmas dinner is this wonderful Alexis Soyer beetroot stuffing, which really makes it sparkle. A few potatoes, and then, last but not least, some apple sauce. So, there we have it, a perfect Dickensian Christmas dinner, cooked to perfection. A meal like this was a rarity for the poor. And as Tiny Tim tucked into the best meal he'd eaten since last Christmas, it is understandable that he would say, "God bless us, everyone."
The night before Christmas can be one of the busiest of the year. There's just so much to think about. Cooking a complicated supper is the last thing you need. Instead, you want something fast and familiar, like this. Now, if there's one dish that's had a bit of a renaissance recently, it's mac and cheese, and this is my version of it. It's quick, simple, easy to prepare, full of flavour and tastes fantastic. It's perfect for the run-up to Christmas. First of all, we're going to cook our macaroni. For that, you need salted boiling water. Bit of macaroni, make sure you've got plenty of water as well. Now, this will take about maybe 8 to 10 minutes to cook. Follow the instructions on the back of the packet, really. That gives me the chance to make the sauce. I start by melting some butter in a warm pan and stir in some flour. Then add 500 ml of milk, whisking constantly to prevent lumps. Now, what you end up with is a lovely, rich sauce and a little hint of nutmeg. Now, this is a great thing you can get on your Christmas list. A little grater. And then we can turn our attention to the cheese. Whatever cheese you've got, really. It's kind of the stuff that you use a leftover cheese board. This Gorgonzola Dolce, which is that combination of mascarpone cheese and Gorgonzola. We throw a little bit of that in. You've got some cheddar cheese. You can put this into chunks. This is where you can transform the everyday macaroni cheese that we used to have as a kid into something really special by the combination of different types of cheeses. So we've got a Caerphilly cheese, which you can dissolve into it as well. And finally, I'm adding Parmesan, but you can add whatever you happen to have in. And a flavouring that I'm going to add as well is just a tiny bit of mustard. But I'm going to use some grain mustard and whisk that together. Season with salt and pepper and taste to see if the sauce is cheesy enough. Do you know what? That's not bad, actually. And then add my secret ingredient. You've got to have this next thing in macaroni cheese. It shouldn't be just cheese and pasta. I know that'll please a lot of people. But for me, it's all about this. Pancetta, this wonderful ingredient. It's cured Italian belly pork. It's wonderful. And if we chop it up into pieces, you can actually buy this stuff as lardons now as well. But I'm going to fry it up so it's crispy. So you get different types of flavours in every single bite. Tiny bit of oil. And we throw in a little bit of pancetta. Now, this is a dish that everybody wants, really, at Christmas. It's quick, simple to prepare. You can actually put it in the fridge and reheat it. So it makes for the perfect dish, really. Whether you're doing this for a dinner party and you want to surprise them with something slightly different, or using leftovers as well. Everybody's got leftovers on the cheese board. You're wondering what to do with it. Gets to Boxing Day after Christmas. You want a quick snack, something like that for the kids. This is the perfect way to incorporate everything together. By the time the pancetta's ready, the macaroni should be too. So take them both off the heat and drain the pasta. And then pour it back into the pan. So now we're more or less ready, really. Switch off the heat. We've got this fantastic sauce that I can pour into it as well. Stir all this lot in. So we want to coat all that macaroni in the sauce. And then we can take some of this crispy pancetta. Now, no, a lot of people would drain off the fat. You fools. That's all flavour in there. Mix that together. You see, now we're talking. Cheese starts to melt, those chunks of cheese in there. Chuck it on our dish like that. But then what I like to do is something a little bit more special. You take some mozzarella cheese over the top, a nice bit of breadcrumbs. So I'm going to pop this straight under the grill for about 3 or 4 minutes. And while that's finishing off, I'm going to make a fresh and speedy salad. A simple grain mustard dressing is great over cheese top cos lettuce. Perfect with that hot mac and cheese. Look at that. Now, me personally, I would just put a touch of basil on it. I'm basically just going to dive straight in and have a taste. Now, macaroni cheese has been around for years. I'm a 70s child, and this was the staple back then. But if it tasted like this, sorry, Mother, I'd be the size of a house. Some people think I am. It's an optical illusion. Just your TVs are getting bigger. Well, that's my excuse anyway. So there you have it, a delicious, comforting, savoury supper for Christmas Eve. Make this and you'll never have to throw away your leftover cheese again.